Hello, my name is Justin Bright, and welcome to Kerbal Space Program version 1.7.3, where we are doing the Realism Overhaul Next Small Step RP-1 career playthrough. And what I want to talk a little bit about before we get started is kind of what I'm working on as far as the spaceplane stuff. So I'm not normally a plane guy, so I'm doing a lot of heavy borrowing, we're going to call it, from the RP-1 Discord. And the end to which I'm doing that is we're doing that to kickstart our manned space program. We are starting out by making a plane that can just break the sound barrier. That is going to be analogous to the Bell X-1 space plane, which is what the US used to break the sound barrier with Chuck Yeager. And from there, we're moving on to the Bell X-2, which was another space plane built by the US that was used to... If the X-1 was used to break the sound barrier and break Mach 1 speeds and test the performance of vessels at that velocity and the way that pilots reacted at that velocity, the X-2 was designed to test aircraft at the Mach 2 to Mach 3 range. So that's kind of what we're going to be working on, building vessels to kind of match those performance qualities, if not actually making, a one-to-one recreation of each one. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Let's get into it. All right, so let's take a look at the new X-Plane contracts that have unlocked because we broke the sound barrier. So that gets rid of the X-Plane's low, which is of like fly at 3,000 meters for 3 minutes. And like, oh, that sounds incredibly boring. But now it unlocks this X-Plane Supersonic contract, which, let's take a look. Get a really high velocity at a really high altitude for 3 minutes. Well, that seems like really good practice for moving that forward. But there's also this, which this looks like the low space field of return, low space biological experimentation contract, in that it is a less procedural series of 4 contracts that is going to force us to progress our spaceplane designs. So I'm going to actually have to work on that. Yeah, I guess I'll have to figure out how to build those a little bit better, or at least scour the Discord for better and better designs that use better and better technology as we move forward. But looks like the next goal that we have for our space planes are getting to 12.5 kilometers, so that's dramatically higher than we were. We got to about 8,000 meters or so with the Redbird B, and also to reach 320 meters per second at that altitude. And it looks like you just have to hit that velocity. You don't have to maintain that velocity for any amount of time. Vessel is a rocket plane. I have no idea how they test that, but I guess making sure that it's not being propelled by a turbine jet or a propeller jet. Anyways, I'm not too worried about that. But yeah, so we have to get a little bit higher, which we were not able to do with the Redbird B, so that is going to require some tweaks in design. But yeah, so that'll be something fun for us to return to as we continue doing sounding rocket contracts. The other important thing that you'll notice is that we have 51,000 funds, and we don't actually have too much to... Nope, I'm lying. We do have some things that we want to upgrade. We want to actually get B9 procedural wings that are supersonic, that will not tear themselves apart. We want control surfaces. We want all moving wings, question mark? Yeah, so sure, the circular intake and those body parts. Okay, cool. So yeah, there we go. We've got all of those lovely B9 parts that are supersonic, so I can rebuild a plane or build a plane from scratch that will probably not perform as well as a Redbird B, but maybe it'll work, question mark. But it will at least have control surfaces and wings that will not be torn apart quite as easily, which is a really important thing as we start getting further and faster. And the last thing, that leaves us with another 20,000, which means we drop another point into R&D, which gives us up to 5.309 per year, which means we're done with early solid rocket engines in 45 days. And yeah, some of the longer ones here, like this is 700 days, so every little bit of extra we can get is going to really pay dividends. We want to get as many points in here as possible. I still feel like that's our bottleneck, so we're going to keep working on that for now. All right, so here is the Redbird B that we recovered, and it looks like the engine has blown clean off of that, so that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. We'll fill up the tanks as we launch it. I'm not terribly... Actually, I can just do that right now. It's not really any kind of a big deal because we are going to remove the tanks entirely, and we are going to reattach another XLR-11. There you have that. And now we get to actually upgrade to the XLR-11 RM-5, which is, I guess, compared to the RM-3 that we've been using. The differences here is that it's a little bit heavier of an engine, from what I can tell here. It's another 0.5 tons. But it has much better specific impulse, which should be incredibly helpful. So let's go ahead and attach that, and then we can now set up our tanks to use the right fuel mix. And there we go. That gets us 5.5 minutes, 1,800 or almost 1,900 meters per second of delta V for whatever that means with a plane. So out of curiosity, so 1883 compared to 1801. Yeah, so we gain about 82 meters per second of delta V, which is nice. Doesn't sound very extreme, but any amount of efficiency that we can get to start nailing these contracts is going to be just fantastic. So yeah, I'll play with this and we'll see if this actually works out, if the Redbird B winds up being good to do some of these other contracts. It's very possible that I'm just flying it badly. But I really like it. It's so pretty and I'd love to keep using it. So I guess, but yeah, so we'll see how that works. I do love the parachute embedded on there, which keeps it nice and safe. Fix up that staging, save the vessel, save the edits, and then we'll use this again someday soon. All right, here we have another launch of our R2 missile, which hopefully is going to be pretty uneventful and very comparable to the last time we did this. So we've got the engine up to speed and release. There we go. So as we are flying off here to see how this goes, the R2 is an actual missile. Like, I based my original design on the R1, but I think I might be a little bit closer to the actual performance specifications of the actual R2 short-range ballistic missile, which was, again, a Russian design based on the R1. It was a pretty quick upgrade from the R1 to the R2, and these are all... apparently this is the last Russian missile that was based on the German V2 rocket that Werner von Braun had created. And that was kind of the foundation of rocketry for both the Americans and the Russians during the space race. Was they kind of went off of that initial design and then they went in their own direction. And oh no, transient shutdown. What's a transient shutdown? What does that mean? Well, I think it doesn't matter what that means because there are no ignitions remaining. Gosh. Okay, yeah, so that is a big failure on this launch. Man, and here I was thinking this was going to be super uneventful. Well, so much for that. Yeah, so this thing is still full of propellant, and I really don't think that this little parachute is going to be able to save it. But, you know, let's just see. Let this thing spin and fly a little bit out to sea. I just want to see how much, just how badly this parachute performs. Because I would like to save the avionics for sure and the film capsule. There's no science for me to gain. It may very well be that this parachute doesn't do anything, and hopefully it doesn't just like tear itself off, but because I'd love to save... Oh my god, holy crap. No, let go! Ah! Oh, my hubris has undone me. Okay. I'm not sure why I didn't expect that to happen, but there you go. So welcome to RP-1, I guess. That is test flight checking me, making sure I'm not moving too quickly. But yeah, so we've lost that rocket. We're going to have to rebuild that one. Okay, so next up is going to be the research for solid rocket engines, which is exciting because that is going to give us access to the actual construction of the Aero B rocket, the way that it was historically built, not the you know, hodgepodge of technology that I've been using. So yeah, so that gives us two interesting new parts. It gives us the Aerojet 2.5 KS 18,000, which is the first stage of the Aero B line of sounding rockets, as it says there at the bottom. Actually, let me see if I can fix something for you all. Okay, is that helpful? Hopefully that's helpful. I just upped my UI scale to 1.3, which in theory should make it a little bit easier for you all to see what is happening. So yeah, I'd love to make sure that everybody has what they need to be able to actually access this content. So please leave me feedback if there's ever something that you want fixed or updated. I'm always happy to, you know, make changes if it makes it easier for you all. So anyways, this booster is, as it says, it is the first stage for the Aero B rockets, and it is going to be a much more capable booster than the Tiny Tim has been. The Tiny Tim has kind of done its job, but now we're ready to start getting some real good solid rocket boosters, which is what this starts us off with. It also gives us a separation motor, which I think we can start doing some interesting things with. In addition to, you know, staging for ullage, we are going to be able to use this to maybe do some D-spin, things like that. I'm not actually sure where all the D-spin module stuff is. Probably up here in like early flight control. Nope, this is just RCS. Supersonic flight. Yeah, anyways, I've been looking for ways to de-spin my rockets now that I'm able to like really get spin stabilized R2s flying. So now we need to figure out how to stop spinning because it drives me a little crazy. So yeah, I'll be experimenting with ways to get that working. So yeah, anyways, there we go. There we've got those two rockets ready to roll. All right, and I got a little bit of feedback on my previous episode, and as it turns out, I had the flaps down the whole time when I was flying this Redbird space plane, which, you know, that slowed me down really quite a bit. So I've done a little bit of testing, and it really does make a pretty humongous difference. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this performs once it's, you know, actually set up correctly. I don't know how to fly planes is what I'm trying to say. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to set this up to, looks like I can activate spoiler, increase and decrease flap deflection. Okay, so let's go ahead and have this, 1 will increase the flap deflection and 2 will decrease the flap deflection. That way I can modify my flaps in flight. So the feedback I got was from Anton Hengst, and one of the things that he said was that it was set up with the flaps down in a launch configuration to launch off of the runway, I guess. So I guess that teaches me two things. First, that this was actually possible to fly off of the runway as opposed to just airdropping. And second, that being able to control this is going to be something important. So that's something that we will do going forward. So I can just go ahead and save this to make sure that this will be the case on all future Redbirds, and also save these edits so that we can get that built. All right, here we go. 10 seconds until Sally Bradley launches in the Redbird. Go and engage the autopilot altitude hold. We're going to bring this up to 10 kilometers. Set. Roll hold. Turn that off, and there we go. Now we're kind of pulling up. Now I want to see. Okay, I've kind of jammed on the button, and it looks like the flaps are now locked into the down position or the up position. They're locked away. They're even with everything else, which I think is going to help us really quite a lot, hopefully. So what we are doing here, oh man, all my stuff is kind of on top of each other with the new UI scale, but that is just fine. We're going to put this away. Science here and now, thanks so much. Low space film return is for a little bit later on. Here we go. Experimental rocket planes. We are trying to reach 12.5 kilometers. 12.5 kilometers. Goodness gracious. 12,600. And go a little bit faster. Faster up. Boom. Okay. So yeah, we are attempting to get to 12.5 kilometers with a crewed vessel, and we're going to be trying to use our Redbird B once again, this time with the flaps down. Hopefully that increases our performance. And we need to, at that point, get to 320 meters per second between 10 kilometers and 12.5 kilometers of altitude. So yeah, we are kind of pointed up and trying to get up there as quickly as possible. As we are going further up and escaping the atmosphere, we will get better and better performance out of this rocket, which I think I've upgraded. I'm not 100% certain, but I think I've upgraded to the latest version of the XLR-11. If not, then the next one will be increasing that to the latest version. So, yeah, this is basically my life for a little while. We are climbing at 7,000 meters. My vertical speed is increasing. We're kind of tipped up. Flaps are down, I think. So yeah, I guess we'll see how well this does. All right, it looks like we are about to make it. So yeah, we are just about to hit it, and 12.5. There we go. We have hit that speed, and we have actually hit our correct velocity. Let's just open this throttle up and see what we can do. So yeah, now that we are at the flight that the autopilot, the altitude that the autopilot wants us to get to, we are just going to be hauling butt in level flight and seeing just how fast this thing can go. And look at that, without as much air resistance up here, we are able to, we're climbing up over 460 meters per second. Man, the performance is dramatic when you actually fly the plane correctly. So yeah, I absolutely welcome all feedback from the lovely folks out there who know more about planes than I do, who know more about real-world rocketry than I do. That's how I learn, and I find that to be just a ton of fun. So yeah, please let me know if you find that I'm doing something wrong. And there we go, we have engine cut off. So yeah, we are just going to glide back, and we are so high up in the atmosphere right now that we are hopefully going to be able to make it back. Let's take a look at the map. No, that's a hard no on us actually making it back. Yeah, so I'm gonna try to angle this down just a little bit. Yeah, you can actually just see the coast way out that way. So I kind of misjudged how far off this was going to be. So let's not, let's see how to put this. Let's just set my vertical speed hold so that I'm trying not to go too fast down. No more than 55 miles an hour. No more than negative 55 meters per second. Because I need to be pointing down, like that's just kind of how that is. But I also don't want to go down so fast that you know, I smash into the ground or whatever. I want to glide back and get as close to the Space Center as I possibly can, and see if I can't save the engine this time, because that actually cost me about 150 days when I smashed this engine into the water. It didn't explode due to a test failure. It just, you know, impacted. So it'd be great if I could glide this all the way back in, but that is going to be a long journey. So I will get back to you when we know which way this is going to go. Okay, my autopilot is, oh my gosh, and I'm still time warping. Okay, my autopilot is failing me, so it looks like we have not made it. We are not even close, so I am doing my best to try to just glide this in a little bit better and hit that parachute. Come on, there we go. Okay, now try not to hit the water engine first. Oh. Okay, so it looks like water landings are not the way to go because it's just going to shear that engine straight off. So that, once again, is going to cost us a whole bunch of money, but, you know, is what it is. I'll get better. I'll try to get better next time and try other things like air, see if there's some like flap deflection I could have done to slow this down a little bit better. Maybe bringing it in a little bit closer to land to start with would have been a good place to begin. But regardless, the important thing is we completed our experimental rocket planes contract, which gets us 4,000 funds for breaking 10-kilometer altitude and another 5,400 for completing that contract. All right, so it's time to spend us another point on, yeah, so we could upgrade our VAB or even our spaceplane hangar. We're still pretty well bottlenecked on science, but I'd like to get this going a little bit faster because I've been rushing a lot of these points like previously, but I think now it's time to just save my money and try to increase the speed of my VAB in general because I want to use the money more efficiently and I want to get these moving a little bit faster, and 150 days is a really long time for a rocket to be in production. We are just about at the end of 1952, so I think in terms of, you know, the pure best path through this part of the game, I'm not doing great, but I'm still enjoying myself, and I hope you guys are too. So I hope that this will work out, and we'll keep going through this. We've just got a couple more launches in the sounding rockets phase, and they're going to look fairly similar. So I'll probably only show you guys the big highlights of the next couple of launches, like when, you know, engines fail mid-flight and ruin everything forever, for example. All right, so trying again with the R2. 3, 2, 1, 1.5, launch. And so, like I said, let's just get through this launch at incredibly high speed. So we've just kind of accelerated the video here. I just want to show you the highlights, like I said, such as me reorganizing my menus. But yeah, I do love a completely trouble-free launch. All right, looks like this was pretty darn successful, so we're going to go ahead and decouple that. We've taken some science, some planetary photography in the upper atmosphere. Now we are just spinning our way towards freedom, and also, more importantly, a 214-kilometer apoapsis. All right, and here we are rotating wildly in the water. Looks like we were completely successful. Contract complete. Low space film return. 17,000 credits. Huzzah! All right, so some quick updates to the RTV-N-2, which we currently have the contract. So many of these little extra milestones just clutter up my contract window. So, low space biological experimentation. We need to reach 140 kilometers with a biological sample and 115 units of payload, which, boop, boop, we have right there. So, we're going to make the swap to the new solid rocket booster. And we are at, we are at 2622 meters per second of delta V with this Tiny Tim. Thank you for your service, sir. And then we're going to slap this on here, and we are up to 2707. So that gets us an extra 80 or so meters per second of delta V, which is just fantastic. I love all the free thrust that we can get, but one thing for us to think about, something in the future, what if we had something bigger than just a little solid rocket booster on the bottom of this? Something to think about. So yeah, we're going to call this the RTV-N- this rocket with the Aero B on top of the Aerojet 2.5 KS whatever, and then the regular Aero B Zasser 1 would be something like the RTV-N-8. So with this and then this and then this, let's call that the N- I don't know, +1, 9. We'll just save that, and there we go. Alright, so it feels like there's so much more to do, so much more to build to get us going and get us out of the sounding rocket phase, but I am all out of time for this episode, I think. So if you enjoyed this, please like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. Let me know if you have any feedback. I'm always happy to incorporate that, and I'll see you next time.